Hey guys, welcome back. This is going to be a part 1.5 because I realized that I completely neglected to mention something huge. I showed you how to put the handle on a casting rod. This is a bait casting rod, right? But when I first started building, and what a lot of builders start on is a spinning rod, and so I'm making an addendum to that video where I'm going to go through and I'm going to show you how to attach a spinning reel seat. Here we're going to go ahead and attach this here, and I'm going to show you how to get this to fit nice and snug on here. So one of your first questions might be, what size spinning reel do I need? I would say that the best way to fit the size of the reel seat you need is to base it off of the type of fishing you're building the rod for. Let's talk about how spinning reels are measured. They are measured online. When you're shopping online, they are classified by their inner diameter. I tend to go with 16 to 18 millimeters, and I also try and match it up with the type of grip I'm using. So this is a little bit skinnier of a cork grip, and so I'm using a 16 for this one because it lines up pretty well with the diameter of this grip here. Another question you might have is, which direction does this go? Well, as the builder, that is completely up to you. I like to put it with the threads towards the butt of the rod, simply because I prefer the way that feels in my hand when I'm holding the rod, so that when I am holding this, I'm holding it not with my thumb on the threads. My thumb can be on the foregrip, while if I had it with this towards the butt, my thumb is sitting on the threads if I don't cut these. Now, looking at our diameter of this is way bigger than this, so how are we going to fit this to this? Next, I will talk about what's called an arbor. An arbor is basically whatever insert of material you put in between your blank and the inside of your reel seat. Some builders like to use tape, like myself. I use masking tape to wrap around here and build it to the exact spacing I need for this. There are also foam arbors you can get online that you can sand down to the required diameter you need, but I'm going to show you how to build a tape arbor. Okay, so I have my masking tape with me, and what I'm going to do now is I am going to try and space my arbors accordingly. I'm going to mark off where the reel seat ends right there, and then I'm going to try and space my arbors kind of evenly throughout my mark there so that I have equal support underneath. I like to put 3, sometimes 4, depending on the width of the tape that I'm using. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to feed my tape onto here, leave a little bit of space in between this and the cork, and I'll show you why in just a second. And then using my power wrapper, I'm basically just going to quickly thread this on here until I get it to about 16 millimeters. Once I'm at the general thickness that I need, I will then just kind of make micro adjustments to it and tear off little pieces until my reel seat snugly fits on there. Now this is a little bit loose, so I'm going to add a little bit back on here. There we go. That's about how snug we want it to be. We want it to be able to firmly hold it in place without it rattling around, but we don't want it to be so snug that we're going to push out any epoxy that we're going to be putting on this in a sec. So I'm going to go ahead and make my other arbors real quick, and I'll be right back. Alright, so we've got all 4 of our arbors done. I've spaced them out as evenly as I could, and we'll just check to make sure that it fits, the reel seat fits nice and snug. There we go, we don't want that going anywhere. So next is gluing it. But actually, before we do that, I went ahead, since this is a spinning rod, I always put a foregrip on my spinning rods. And so I have this in place, and then I went ahead and I reamed my foregrip so that after we get this in place, we can also throw some glue here and get this put in place too. And then we'll have the entire handle done at once. So now we're gonna go ahead and mix some more of that 2-part epoxy up, and we're gonna try our best to seal up this tape completely completely. You want it to be completely airtight in here, because if water gets in here and gets into this tape area, it's going to degrade your tape, and you don't want the foundation of your epoxy to wither away. I chose not to put marbling pigment into this to turn it black, because this is pretty much all interior. If you really want, you can mix like sawdust into it, or like cork dust from when you're reaming your handles, in order to make it like cork colored, but I'm not going to do that for this build. We're just going to go ahead and get it nice and in there. We want to seal up the sides of the tape arbors completely. So before I put this on here, before I slide this over and get these threads all gluey, I like to put a little bit of thin masking tape over my last thread. And obviously you won't have to do this if you are putting the other end first. When I do this, it kind of helps keep some of the excess glue that's going to get pushed off from getting into the threads, because they're a pain to clean. So let's go ahead and get this on here. There we go. And then I'm just gonna pull this right off. And it's gonna solve like 80% of my cleaning right there. Now I may go back and end up putting a little bit on the edge of my seat anyway, because I want to try and get a watertight seal down here. So I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit on there on this lip, and then I'm just going to press it into place. Give it a quick once over to make sure that there is a complete seal, and then I'm going to clean up this thread area right here, just to make sure that there's not any extra glue drying on here. After, I make sure that it's aligned with the spine. Okay, I have this handy dandy emblem that I put on the side here, and I'm going to align it that way and then confirm with my spine down the blank. And then I'm going to go ahead and get this cleaned up real quick. You'll go through a lot of paper towels doing these cleanings, so I like to just kind of tear it off into smaller pieces so I can stretch them out, make them last a little bit. And what I'll do is I'll kind of, in order to get really in between the threads, I'll fold it, and then I'll use the creased edge as kind of like floss, so that I can really kind of get into those places that I won't be able to reach with my clumsy fingertips. I'll get a fresh one, and then I'll wet it with some rubbing alcohol, and then give it a second go, just to make sure that I don't have any excess poking out from my seam. I'm going to come down here and get this prep for the foregrip. And all that means is that, so I want to get a watertight seal around the real seat right here too, so that I can put the foregrip right there, excuse me. And so I'm going to go ahead and prep this area. And then I'm also going to just dab a little bit on this lip here. So that the foregrip has something to stick to once I slide it on here. This part might get a little bit messy, because when I press it in, it's going to smash, it's going to come out. So just be ready for that. Let's go ahead and get this on here. go. And now we're going to be very careful not to smear it, because we have a crease right here on the reel seat that sometimes glue likes to get into, and it's kind of hard to get out without messing up everything going on here. So I am going to very gingerly get this excess off. Let's get it wet. There. Now I might have to come back and sand this down a little bit to get it more even with the reel seat. We'll see. Sometimes that happens with foregrips. And then very last step is to prep our winding check area. There we go. Actually, I'm gonna throw a little bit more on there just to be extra sure. I don't mind cleaning. It's a lot easier to clean it off a foregrip than it is a casting reel seat. So I'm gonna put some extra here. Sometimes with these rubber winding checks, you get a little bit of this extra lip that's kind of right there. That's just from the manufacturing mold. Once that is glued and like sealed and not going anywhere, I'm gonna come back with a razor and carefully shave that off. And that is tentatively how we attach a spinning reel seat. So just to cover over everything we did, we made the tape arbor to fit the inside of the reel seat pretty snugly. We slid it on there, put a little bit of glue over here to water seal that and make sure none of that tape's gonna get ruined by water. And then we brought our foregrip, excuse me. We sealed it off right here with glue. And then we might have to come back and sand this down to make sure it's nice and flush. And then another layer of sealing down here with our winding check and glue underneath it. So that is your entire spinning handle. The very last thing I'll do is check one more time to make sure that everything is aligned in terms of my spine. And then after that, this rod is gonna go on the rack so that it can cure for tomorrow when we get to the guides and all that. But other than that, that's everything. So if there is anything I missed or any more questions you have, leave a comment. If not, leave a like down below, and thanks for watching. See you next time.